Welcome, my friends. I just did my second interview since arriving in the Middle East, and it was absolutely fantastic. Michelle is a friend of mine. We were able to dive into some subjects that I think are going to be quite illuminating for you, and her story of healing is really quite remarkable. But until we get to that, if you are unaware, I am going to be teaching an absolutely revolutionary course on sacred energy exchange, sex. I'm going to be discussing things like pornography, masturbation, the things that we are normally not comfortable talking about. I want to give you the enlightened perspective, the metaphysical perspective about what is really going on when we engage in sex, what it can be applied for, all the different applications of really the most powerful force that exists. So that is going to be pinned at the top of the comments below. So if you want to learn more about sex and ways and things that you've never heard before, sign up. That class is going to start towards the end of November. But until then, enjoy this great interview that I did with Michelle. I'll see you soon.
Once again, my mind was completely blown when I began having these spiritually transformative experiences, especially an experience I had with Iboga,
Mm.
which was, deeply spiritual and also at the same time very confusing and took me a long time to integrate. And I was able to look at myself in the world in a different way. And, we hear all of this all of the time about the Great Awakening and ascension and all of these things. And we really grasp onto it, I think, in the spiritual community. And yet it seems like there's a disconnect because there is so much pain and we're seeing truths now that are horrifying. You see pedophilia and you see the light being, spotlighted on terrible, like people who've done terrible things in the shadows for such a long time, and it's coming up and it's coming up and it's coming up. And I just feel like the consciousness is sort of almost like awakening and constricting at the same time. It's like there's just
Mm.
some wacky disconnect going on. And I'm wondering if you can shed some light for the audience on that, because I bet you that more than one person is confused.
Yeah, well, we can't move past what we don't understand. Okay, so all of these horrifying things coming to light are necessary in order to move past it. Otherwise, it would just continue. So that's kind of like this, like you were saying, moving past, and at the same time, it's like, are we actually moving past? Yes, because we can't move past what we don't understand, right? So unfortunately, and that's not a strong enough word, but unfortunately, these things actually have been going on a long time, a, a very long time. All of us have been clueless. All of us have been asleep at the wheel for a very long time, but that is starting to change. We are going to hear more horror stories, right? But again, we can't move past what we don't understand. It's all part of the process, right? It's like we almost can't get healthy until we get the diagnosis of what it is that we need to heal. So it's like,
Mm.
right, we got to hear it's like, oh, Michelle, you got this, bad blood work or RJ, right? So it's like, oh, well, I guess we needed to hear that in order to. So it kind of works in that way, which I know sounds strange, but that is how things actually work. So I what I don't want people to fall for, oh, that's a whole nother conversation. Okay, well, maybe we won't go there. But this idea though, because I've called out the spiritual community. Uh, I did an interview. You probably, or maybe you saw it, did not see it, maybe about a year ago, and I just completely, I said, I had enough of this. So
I think so, yes.
yeah. So, but the point is that we are not, no one is going to do this for us. The Galactic Federation isn't going to save us, and the aliens aren't going to come here, and
Right,
we're not going to magically move into 5D. That is
right,
a psychological operation to keep people passive and
right,
weak and
right.
disempowered. That's what that is. Now, politics work a lot in the same way, right? The freedom movement is just complete and utter horseshit. They're still working for the same team. It's another way to keep you waiting, and someone's going to do it for you. It's the same playbook. over and over and over again. Now, the multiverse is a multi-frequential, multi-dimensional hall of mirrors designed for self-mastery. And self-mastery is not a moving target that lies outside the self. So in other words, everyone has to do it individually. Everyone has to do it individually. You can't save anyone. Period. It doesn't work that way. You can't ascend everyone. If that was possible, I would have done it for everyone a long time ago. It doesn't work that way. We have to do this ourselves. All of us, individually. And the spiritual community has done such a massive disservice to the population because really essentially what we've done is we've gone from watching television all the time to watching YouTube all the time,
Right.
right? And all we've really done is taken the belief systems that we had that were on television and just replaced them with spiritual belief systems. They're still bullshit. They're still belief systems. They're still agendas. They're not what is. It is not what is. This whole thing has also been an operation, a psychological operation that's been in the making for a long time. Just like the other horrifying things that we're talking about, this is just another aspect of it. To placate, selling freedom and rebellion. I mean, it's just lies. It's like, take more medications, right? Don't worry about it. Well, the Galactic Federation is going to save you. No, your behavior is your savior.
Right.
And that's it. So it's about empowering ourselves, letting go of identifications. We empower ourselves by letting go of what we're attached to. I know that doesn't sound right to the ego mind, but it's absolutely true. The more that you identify yourself, attach yourself with anything, that is your energy, your life force that you're using to stay attached to a role, a belief, a concept, an ideology, so-called knowledge. That is your energy. The more identifications and attachments and ideologies that you identify with, the weaker you are energetically. The weaker you are. And the more that you disengage and no longer identify with these things, the more that your energy returns to you. So actually, detachment is power. And that's what the purveyors of the matrix are most afraid of, is everyone realizing what I just said. Because as soon as we start to disengage and no longer identify with all these beliefs, all this bullshit and all this kind of stuff, all of our power comes right back to us. And no, they can't stop that. So the more that they can keep you internally fragmented, the weaker that you are and the easier you are to control and subjugate. And so it's the microcosm and the mini, it's as above, so below. The more that we work with ourselves in the way that we're talking about, the more that we'll realize the truth, that we are unstoppable, that we have all the power, that nothing can hold us back except ourselves. And they realized a long time ago, the only way you can stop an unlimited, immortal creator being is to have each and every unlimited and immortal creator being stop themselves. And that's the conditioning. That's the brainwashing. That's the doubt. So they sit back, hands off, and just watch everyone stop themselves. And as you stop yourself, you stop everybody else through your own judgment, telling them this, don't do that. That's wrong. Don't do. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. But upon awakening, none of it works. None of it,
Correct.
none of it works. And we're starting to see that. Just we must not get caught up in what we see. And I always use the analogy, just pretend it's a boring movie, right? Because we all know what it's like to watch a boring movie. We don't give a shit what happens. It's like, whatever. I don't really care. I'm not into it. I don't care, right? And that's what I'm saying. Stop caring. That's what I said. Stop caring, because caring is having a vested interest in a specific outcome, which is disempowering. Have compassion. That's totally different. But caring, stop fucking caring. And watch how much better you feel and watch what you'll be able to do with yourself. That's really the metaphysics are the key. I wish I could teach the planet the metaphysics, but I mean that's why I keep coming back, so I could just keep teaching it over and over again. But that's really the key. Is this detachment gives us power. That detachment will give us clarity. We'll know what's right. We'll feel into it. It's like, no, something's not right about that. Nope, doesn't feel right to me. Doesn't pass the smell test. Nope, not doing it. Right? But when you're identified and attached to everything, you have no clarity. You have no clarity and no power. And that's the state of being and the state of consciousness that they want us in. Not knowing what to do, not knowing what's coming next. Always worried about the next thing. Always backpedaling, right? Being a consumer and not a creator. And when you're detached, you can create. And then once you can create, you can make your life whatever it is you want it to be.
It's almost like the ultimate terror that a narcissist has, that their
Mm.
victim will just suddenly not care what their next move is. Like their victim will just detach and take back their power by just kind of being indifferent.
That is a perfect analogy because world culture is sociopathic and narcissistic and not human. So
Correct.
that is absolutely right, and that's where that comes from. And that is the kryptonite to that way of operating, is to not care, detach, and now they have no ammunition because they don't have your energy. And it's like, well, now the fuck, what do we do? We don't have them on, right? They got nothing. They got nothing because we are everything. We have everything. That's exactly right. That is how you disarm a narcissist. That's how you disarm a psychopath, and that is actually how we're going to move past so-called world culture and actually create the environment that we truly desire, that we know that we're capable of, but we have to detach first in order to be able to
Yes.
do that. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. This has been one of the most fascinating and helpful hours that I know I've had. And I know that my audience is going to feel the same way because yeah, it was just really a special interview. And I just want to thank you. I know you're a busy person. And when I reached out to you and I had reviewed the book, I thought, well, I'm just going to take a shot. I'm just going to take a shot. Why not? And so I really appreciate you doing that because you've really hit on, I think, what it is, the turning point that we're all about to get into.
Mm.
You've been there first and you're guiding the way. And I think it's something that we absolutely have to be mindful of, not in the bypassing way that I think that some of us have gotten confused by, but in the actual cutting off the fuel of what is taking us in the wrong direction, which is outside of ourselves, in the fear, in the vibration of fear, so that we can bring it back home like you did.
I hope you're enjoying this fantastic conversation. But don't worry, there is much, much more to this conversation. So if you're not subscribed, click on that, subscribe, and there'll be more of this interview coming very soon. Until then, be well.